What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to a new video. So today I'm going to be going over my 10 favorite raise up animals from last year. Not only some snakes that I produced, but also ones that I acquired as babies last year. Many of you will probably recognize a lot of these snakes from prior videos, but they're a lot bigger now and frankly much more beautiful. So stay tuned for the list. I'm going to show you my favorites from last year. All right, we are kicking the list off with a bang. This is one of my female Ocean County northern pine snakes. And she is from what is known as the monster line of northern pine snakes, which originate in this Ocean County locality. And they are known to get an absolutely incredible adult size of sometimes over 8 feet long, which for this species is a really large individual. And it is already showing. This animal is just over a year old. It's probably almost 4 feet long and is just an absolute tank, eating big, small rats and growing very quickly. I just absolutely love this crisp, classic look of the Ocean County animals, that black and white. You really can't beat it. It is absolutely spectacular. One of the most incredible North American snakes, in my opinion, are the northern pine snakes. Just love their head structure. They're just such bulletproof snakes. They grow really quickly. They're very confident, calm individuals in my experience, and just some of the most rewarding snakes to keep. The genus Pituophis has been an obsession of mine for a long time, but really over the last year and a half or so, I've dove a little bit deeper into the genus, into more localities and species, and I do plan on going even further than I already am, making these a real emphasis in my collection. All right, so here is number 9 on the list. This is my holdback female Wamena scrub python from last year. This was my first clutch of scrub pythons back in 2024, and the first time I've ever produced this locality type. This girl from pretty much day one really stood out in the clutch to me. Her incredible pattern, the color has really developed nicely as she has come in. And this locality type is really one of the more underrated types of scrub pythons that are available in the hobby. One that I feel like more people should really try to get some focus on in their collections. The potential for line breeding within this locality is pretty endless, considering the array of different colors they can come in, as well as just how complex their pattern is throughout their body and how every individual looks very different. They have that really cool kind of granity look throughout their body that I think is really cool, in contrast very well to the barneck scrub pythons, which they are probably the most closely related to, closest in proximity to from a geographic standpoint as well. Obviously, as you can see, this girl is doing really well and has grown a lot in her first almost year and a half of life now. She was born early May of last year, and I cannot wait to see what she'll look like in another year. Coming in at number 8, we have this male barneck scrub python right here that I produced last year. I've talked about the clutch that this guy came from in a few videos. Him and his siblings are, to me, my favorite barneck scrub pythons that I have produced to date. They came from 2 incredible parents. The mom particularly is a very, very special animal. One of the most golden barneck scrub pythons I've ever seen in person or in pictures. And the babies did not disappoint. This guy right here is just absolutely incredible. Really cool, high contrast pattern, but yet a lot of irregularity to it, especially in the first third of the body, which I find very cool. Transitioning to some more classic bars, and then down into a dark tail. As I've talked about on some previous videos, barneck scrub pythons essentially come in 2 different phases as far as the tail goes, where either it darkens down to the color of the bands or it fades into the color of the base color, like this tan, for instance. Obviously, this is a very dark-tailed individual, but he has this really cool highlighter spot creeping through near the beginning of his tail pattern, which I think is just absolutely fascinating. I don't know if I've ever seen another dark-tailed barneck with that kind of spot coming through. It was really, really cool. Honestly, it was really hard to place him within the list, but one of my absolute favorite males I've ever produced, and one that I can't wait to grow up to be a future breeder. All right, so this is number 7 on the list. Had to show a little bit of love to the rattlesnakes. This is a San Luis Potosi rock rattlesnake from last year. And I've talked about these guys a decent amount here on the channel. They are a naturally occurring integrated population between Crotalus achilles and Crotalus lepidus marulus, where they're from an isolated mountain range kind of in between those 2 populations, and the animals are just absolutely spectacular. This is a male right here from last year, just a little bit over a year old now, and his coloration is just absolutely spectacular. The thing that makes these individuals from this range really amazing is that no two are alike. They're super variable from their pattern, but particularly their color. They have really a rainbow of coloration. But the one that makes this one unique to me is all of this green that is coming in on the sides, kind of creeping up throughout the body, even on the head. I've never seen another individual of this population with green coloration. And so to me, that's really, really special. This cool dorsal stripe kind of underneath some of those bands on the back is also really neat. And just overall, an absolutely incredible little snake. This is one of the many reasons why these are one of my favorite populations of rattlesnakes that I keep. And one of the ones that I have the most individuals from in my collection, especially after having some babies born this year. And this guy will definitely be with me for the long haul. All right, on to number 6 on the list, another colubrid. And this right here is my male Polilo locality Philippine mangrove snake, or Boega dendrophila divergens. He has grown a lot in his first year of life. He was just a tiny little worm eating pinkies when I got him. He was produced by my good friend Patrick Holmes, who is most certainly the most prolific breeder of this species in the United States, and has really been producing some absolutely spectacular individuals. As many of you know, this type of mangrove snake is known for that incredible kind of tricolor look of the bright neon yellow, that really cool powder blue, and then the black outlining throughout their body. And this guy is no exception to that. He is just amazing, absolutely beautiful example of the species. I got an older female at the same time to pair with him that Patrick produced. It was actually an animal from his first clutch. So my plan with them was to raise her up a little bit more slowly, considering this species can be cannibalistic, and it is typically a female consuming male cannibalism. So if the females are too much larger than the males, then you really got to be concerned about that happening. So the plan was to try to get this guy to grow at a quicker rate, not obviously from power feeding, but just from a good, healthy, consistent diet, and to kind of grow the female a little bit more slowly to make sure once he is mature that he is of a good size to breed her. So absolutely gorgeous snake and one of my favorite colubrids. All right, so here is number 5. This is my male Kentucky northern pine snake. And I don't know, to me, it really speaks to just how many amazing snakes I was able to hold back and acquire last year, that an animal like this is coming in the middle of the list. Unfortunately, he is about to go into a shed cycle, so he's not looking his absolute best, but that says a lot because he is still just absolutely stunning. The Kentucky locality of northern pine snakes, by wild population, are maybe the rarest snake native to the United States. So it is an honor to be able to have them in my collection. This animal right here was produced by Bob Ashley of the Chiricahua Desert Museum. One thing that I really like about him, and it's not showing quite as well now because he's in shed, he has this really cool white head, and the rest of his body does not have that coloration, something I find really cool. But these guys are known for that really amazing kind of, orangish yellow neon coloration with the stark black contrast on the pattern. And they can get pretty large as adults. This is one of the larger localities of pine snake, getting 7 to 8 feet long sometimes as adults. Just huge, robust, confident animals. One of my favorites that I'm working with now, and I definitely could not imagine my collection without these Kentucky northern pine snakes. All right, on to number 4, and it is another northern pine snake. So this is my female red phase northern pine snake. This animal was produced by J. Jacoby, and to my knowledge, this lineage originates from Burlington County, New Jersey. And the animals from there don't typically look like this. This is definitely a special lineage with this red coloration. This animal will continue to improve as it grows to the point of being a pretty much red and black adult northern pine snake, and I can just not wait for that. These northern pine snakes have been very, very fun to raise. Honestly, some of my favorite snakes I've ever raised up from babies. They grow so quickly, change so fast, and are just such robust animals. And this girl right here is no exception to that. It is hard for me to pick a favorite within the northern pine snakes because there are so many different localities and all of them are so beautiful in their own unique way. But it would be hard for me to not pick these red northerns as my favorite. Definitely rivaled by the Kentuckys, but these right here are just spectacular. All right, now on to number 3. We have this male barneck scrub python right here. You guys saw his brother a little bit earlier in the video. It's probably pretty hard to tell, but he's actually deep in shed right now, which is kind of unfortunate for the video, but it doesn't hide what is most special about him, and that is his pattern. One aspect about him that is really cool is how his banding kind of has jagged edges throughout his body. It's a look that I haven't seen on very many animals. Very high pattern, but the really cool edges on the bands. And then towards the mid body, something that is very special that I'm really excited to kind of see for the future, see if I can make some sort of project out of this, is some of his banding kind of has these little highlighter spots in there where the bands themselves are a little bit lighter than they typically would be, which is unique, especially to a heavily patterned animal, because oftentimes you'll see the lighter bands on the more reduced pattern barneck scrub pythons. He has this really cool side striping next to his neck as well, which is kind of a little bit more of a common thing you would see in maybe a Wamena scrub or a Tanamera phase southern scrub python. So really amazing individual. Again, one that has grown a lot in its first year of life. This one's only 13 months old. One snake that I am very excited for the future with. All right, coming in hot here at number 2, this female barneck scrub python from the same clutch that I keep talking about over and over again throughout the video. She is probably the individual with the most classic banding that I've ever produced. It is just so clean, so crisp, so regular throughout almost the entirety of her body where she does have the pattern. And the absolute stark contrast between the dark bands and the really light base color makes her absolutely spectacular. What I am anticipating with this clutch as they continue to grow and change is that their coloration is going to become much more of a kind of bright gold as opposed to this almost kind of light silver tan coloration right here. Could be wrong for sure, as it's still very early on in learning about just how the color inheritance works with these animals and how the development of that color works as well. At being just over a year old, they've really come a long way in terms of their color development, and really within the first few sheds, a lot of this was starting to show. So I definitely would not be unhappy if this is the look that they're going to end up with as adults. That would be absolutely spectacular, but it'll be cool to see over the next couple of years just how much more gold coloration comes in. It was super difficult to not place this girl in the number 1 spot, if I'm being totally honest with you, but here in a second with this next animal, you'll see why. So before we take a look at number 1, here's a quick honorable mention. This is a reduced pattern barneck that I hatched out last year. And the main reason I kept this individual is because he hatched out with an abnormal baby coloration. In my time breeding barneck scrub pythons, they all pretty much have that same kind of brick red color when they are born, except for only a couple of individuals, and I have kept those so far. This one included. It was kind of like a lighter gray coloration, and unfortunately right now I think he's about to go into shed, so he's a bit darker than he normally is, but his color is still definitely a bit different than a lot of barneck scrub pythons, kind of more on like the anery-ish side. He has a little more pattern than some of his siblings did. Some of them were a little more reduced than him, but just with how strange he was when he was a baby, kind of how it continues to develop, I really wanted to see what this guy was going to look like. It's a really cool kind of silver tail as well that, again, who knows what that'll look like in a year or two, but for now, it looks absolutely amazing. So quick honorable mention, one of my favorite males for my reduced pattern project, and one that'll be really fun to raise up. All right, here she is, my favorite snake from last year. This is another one of the siblings from this amazing clutch of barneck scrub pythons. And, it's hard for me to say. I feel like I could give this label to a number of my barnecks, but this is potentially my favorite scrub python I've ever produced. And I've really never seen another one that looks anything like her. She doesn't have nearly as tight of pattern as her siblings do, but it's very high contrast and really strange in the best way possible, kind of up near the top of her body. It almost looks like hieroglyphics or something like that. She has this really cool diamond right in the middle of her back right there. I can't say I've ever seen that on another individual. But possibly the aspect of her that makes me the most excited for the future are these kind of almost hollowed out bands near the middle of her body. Reminds me a lot of a project that I'm also involved in a different species that my buddy Kyle Vargas started with the banded rock rattlesnakes from the Franklin Mountains, where they typically, we'll throw some pictures up on the screen, really cool, stark silver and black contrast. The line that Kyle started has hollowed out bands that make the animals look absolutely incredible. This animal could be the start of a project similar to that going forward. She keeps getting better and better with every shed. She was very nice to just have a fresh shed right before filming this video. She's looking her absolute best right now. Her really light colored tail that's almost kind of like a purplish silver is really incredible as well. So one of my absolute favorite snakes I have ever had. It has been quite the pleasure to watch her grow. You know, from day one, I could tell how special these animals were, but she was a little bit of a sleeper at first, considering she didn't have quite as much pattern as some of the other ones. But by the time she had her second shed, I in my head was pretty sure that she was going to be the standout from the clutch. And about 13 months later, I think she is still, in my mind, the standout from the clutch. Of course, with how much these guys change, that could be a different story in a year or two. But no matter what, this animal is absolutely special and spectacular. All right, everybody, thank you for checking out that video. If you liked it, please subscribe here on the YouTube channel. Hit the notification bell so you never miss a new video. I upload a new video every single Friday. And if you wouldn't mind, drop a comment. Let me know what your favorite animal was from that video. If you want to follow me on social media, I'm on Instagram at Scrub Shepherd, Stephen Cush on Facebook. I'm also on Morph Market at Cush Reptile. And I have a podcast every single Wednesday night on the Trap Talk Reptile Network called Cush's Corner. It goes live at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. With all that said, thank you guys for checking this out, and I will catch you back here next week for a new video.